Hi everyone, look, welcome back for 2017. My name's Dan Richardson and today we're going to be discussing a topic which is quite often talked about in the market from potential sellers, and that's, should I buy before I sell or should I sell before I buy? A really good question. This topic's probably specific to those, or is specific to those who are looking at upgrading or buying a second property. They have something to sell. Now, look, most people who do choose to buy before they sell or think that that's a good option is generally because they want to make sure that they've got their next home secured before they release the other one. The prospect of moving twice or having to find a rental can sometimes seem pretty daunting out there. But what I'm going to show you today is how buying before you sell potentially can be or can put you at a massive strategic disadvantage during that purchase, but also when it comes time to sell your property. And I've got 4 key points here to discuss with you today. Now, before I do that, there's generally a few ways in which people will go or choose to buy before they sell. Really strong buyers might have enough cash or equity or own the home outright to just purchase another property and get organised bridging finance, or better yet, have cash, and that's fine. We'll discuss that in a moment because that's still fraught with some potential risk or some potential danger there. The most common form of doing so is people putting a subject to contingency on a contract of purchase, meaning you've seen a property that you like, you want to put an offer in, you put a contract on that property contingent to the sale of your property going through. Why that's less attractive, or why that puts you at a disadvantage? Number one, it's less attractive to a seller. The easiest way to explain that is put yourself in the seller's shoes. And let's say we have a scenario where a home was, say, on the market, your home was on the market for, hypothetically, $880 to $900. You've been marketing for a couple of weeks and your agent has managed to attract a high level of interest from the marketing. You've got a couple of offers on the table. Now, one of those offers is for full ask, for top end of your asking range at $900,000. That's a subject to finance contract with standard settlement terms of, say, 30 to 45 days. Now, as your agent should, or any diligent agent should, they should make sure that that person either has a pre-approval for the amount or get a finance broker to check them out prior to recommending to accepting that offer, which most do. So that's a reasonably strong offer with one subject to. On the other hand, you got an offer on your property at the same price, and that property, that price or that contract is subject to or contingent to that person selling their property. Now, you've got to look at the settlement terms for that as well. You've got to at least give them a period of time, say 30 days to sell their property, 30 days for that to settle at bare minimum. So at best, that contract's going to be a 60-day settlement. So you've got a subject to finance here with a pre-approval at 30 days, or you've got a subject to sale at the same price over here with a potential 60-day settlement. I'm sure you'll agree which one's the most attractive to that potential seller. So it puts you at a disadvantage there. Also means you can't bid at auction under those conditions. A lot of properties do go to auction, and you do pick up some great prices there. So you are limited as to how you can purchase. You can only purchase, hopefully, if a property passes in at auction or a private treaty property. Number 2, conditions cost money. Okay, if you're in a competitive scenario, let's go back to that same scenario. The only way that you can really make your offer any more attractive is to pay more money. So conditions cost money to have on your contracts. Don't ever forget that. The less conditions you can put on your contract, and we'll talk about that in the next video, you can put on, the more attractive your offer will be. And I'll show you how to make your offers more attractive so you can get the home that you want. Number 3, you never really know how much money you've got to spend. Because if all your equity is tied up in the property that you currently own, then until that sells, you can have all the appraisals and valuations you like, but you cannot determine the market value of a property until it's on the market. Very important point to remember during this process. Number 4, it limits what you can do as a seller. Remember what I said about the 60 days? Now, our subject to sale clause has some very strict parameters in there in relation to when you must have when you must have a contract, when it must be unconditional, and by which date it settles. Now, if that stretches outside of those parameters, you're in a breach of contract. Now, for whatever reason, if that happens, that seller can cancel that contract. So what that means for you as the seller on the other end is that you really can't be too flexible with the terms and conditions of sale that you're providing to the purchaser on your end. You can really only look at an auction, at a cash sale, and you need it to settle within a certain period of time. So what that can do is it can put a little bit of pressure on you to potentially take an offer that you might not be happy with or rush the sale and get a lower price. And you can see with what I said back here about conditions costing money, you're putting a subject to sale on, which might cost you a bit more money if you're competing, and then you might have to rush the sale of your property, which might lower that, thus meaning you've got a larger gap to fill, and that's just not attractive for anyone.